So is the Indian rupee's historic fall a sign of a struggling economy, or is it some kind of strategic masterstroke? Today we're digging into the two completely different stories being told about the very same set of numbers. Okay, so let's set the scene. The Indian rupee recently hit a record low, crossing that 90 to the dollar mark for the very first time. I mean, this year alone, it's down over 5%, making it one of Asia's worst performing major currencies. That's a big deal.
And you know, a number like that gets people talking. It's kicked off two completely opposite narratives. Is this a crisis in the making? Or, as some are claiming, is this a brilliant masterstroke? Let's get into the arguments on both sides. What's really fascinating here is how the script has totally flipped. If you rewind to before 2014, then Chief Minister Narendra Modi was a very vocal critic of a weakening rupee. He'd often use it as a way to slam the government's handling of the economy. But fast forward to today, the story you hear from many government supporters is, well, it's completely different. They now frame the fall not as a problem, but as something that's actually good for the economy, maybe even something that's necessary. All right, so let's look at the first big argument from the don't worry camp. It goes something like this. Yeah, the rupee is falling, but so what? The Indian economy is actually booming. And the star witness for this argument? A really strong GDP growth figure of 8.2%. That's the number that's been making headlines, leading to the claim that India is the world's fastest growing major economy. But you know how it is with these big headline numbers, right? You always have to ask, is it really telling us the whole story? Well, critics are pointing to a pretty significant detail. Just before these GDP numbers were released, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, gave India's national accounting methods a C grade. That is the second lowest rating you can get. And they said it was because of, and I'm quoting here, methodological weaknesses. Okay, so here's where it gets a little nerdy, but stick with me. To get real GDP, you take the nominal growth, the raw number, and subtract inflation. But here's the catch. The inflation figure they used was super low, just 0.25%, so you're barely subtracting anything. Critics argue this makes the real GDP number look artificially high, painting a much rosier picture than what's really happening. Let's move on to claim number 2. This is a classic argument you always hear when a currency gets weaker, that it's actually great for exports. The idea is that a cheaper rupee makes Indian goods cheaper for other countries to buy, so we should be selling a lot more stuff.
And on the surface, it makes perfect sense, right? Over the last decade, the rupee has gotten about 35% cheaper compared to the dollar. In theory, that should have made Indian products a bargain for anyone buying with dollars. But here's the reality check. Despite that 35% drop, India's piece of the global export pie has not grown at all. It's been stuck at just 2% for a whole decade. So where's the boom? It just never happened. And this gets to a really crucial point. You can't export stuff you aren't making. The Index of Industrial Production, which is just a way of measuring how much our factories are producing, grew by a tiny 0.4% in October. That's way below what anyone expected, and it points to a major slowdown, not an export party. Okay, so if the economy and export arguments have some holes, what's the third line of defense? Well, this one changes the subject entirely. The idea is, maybe the rupee isn't actually weak. Maybe it's just that the US dollar is like a superhero, strong against everybody. And this isn't just a random theory. This has been the official line from the finance ministry. It's a clever way to reframe the whole conversation. They're essentially saying, hey, this isn't an India problem, it's a global dollar thing. However, when you actually compare the rupee to its neighbors, a very different story starts to emerge. The data shows the rupee has become Asia's worst performing major currency this year. It's not just weak against the dollar, it's doing poorly compared to a whole bunch of other currencies in the region too. And maybe the biggest plot twist in this whole strong dollar story comes from the government's own actions. Think about it. If a weak rupee is supposedly the goal to help exports, why would the Reserve Bank of India spend over 34 times billion dollars trying to stop the rupee from falling even more? It just doesn't add up. So I know this is a lot of talk about GDP and exports and currency values. Why should you care? Well, because this stuff isn't just numbers on a screen. A falling rupee hits you right where it hurts, your wallet. See, a weaker rupee makes anything we import more expensive. The first thing you notice is at the petrol pump, because we buy crude oil in dollars.
And when fuel gets more expensive, the cost of transporting literally everything, from your vegetables to your new phone, goes up too. And if you have kids studying overseas, you feel this instantly. Their tuition fees, their rent, it's all priced in dollars or pounds. So when the rupee falls by 5%, poof, your costs just went up by 5%. It's that simple and that painful.
It's the exact same story if you're planning a trip abroad. Your hard-earned rupees just don't stretch as far. A big drop in the currency can suddenly make that dream vacation feel 15 or 20% more expensive. We're talking everything from your flight ticket to your hotel room. So where does that leave us? We're basically looking at two completely different paintings of the Indian economy, both inspired by the same falling rupee. In one corner, you've got the official story. India is the world's fastest growing economy, a weak rupee is a secret weapon for exports, and its fall is just because the dollar is so strong. And in the other corner, you have the counter-narrative. Those growth numbers are fishy, exports are going nowhere, and the rupee is actually the laggard of Asia. So look, the big takeaway here isn't about picking a side and saying this is right and that is wrong. It's about remembering to always look past the headline. Whether we're talking about GDP, inflation, or the value of the rupee, the real story is never, ever in just one number. The real question this leaves us with is, which numbers are you watching to understand what's truly happening?